The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
What time is it?
I am the face that runs the place.
You need Roman to be out of the main title picture for a little while. Like, just, you give him a break. This is the only way you're possibly going to get the crowd to do anything but boo him. Just give him a break.
I'm the greatest wrestler in the world.
It was exciting to see because it kind of reminded me of Reading Rainbow a little bit.
All they needed was LeVar Burton to come in there.
This would have definitely got a 5-star pay-per-view for me.
Show of the year.
Yeah, show of the year.
How you doing?
He's held titles all over the world. He is the Samoan submission machine, Samoa Joe!
18 years. It took me 18 years to be standing in this ring right now. And in those 18 years, when you claim to be such a big fan of mine, one man opened the door and gave me an opportunity. And if loyalty to that one man means coming out here, beating up Seth Rollins and putting him on the shelf, so be it.
Ladies and gentlemen, wrestling to the mat.
And your hosts, Gary Vaughan, Sean Garmer, and Paul Leazar.
Welcome everyone to Wrestling to the Max, episode 233, part 1. And boy, do we have an interesting show for you guys. That's right, we've got some news topics that you're not going to want to miss. Not only are we going to talk about some returning superstars, but we're also going to talk about the newest induction into the WWE Hall of Fame. We're going to get into that. Plus, we're also going to talk some XFL. Yeah, I know. Trust me, it's not 2001. But we're going to talk about the XFL because 30 for 30 happened this past week. And, of course, post-Super Bowl, why not still kind of get a little football in here, right? But we're not really focusing on just the football. We're going to talk about the wrestling side of it. What was going on in the WWE during that time? And, of course, we know what else do we think affected the XFL? Maybe did the XFL affect, WWE? So we'll get into that and a lot more in that topic. And, of course, you're not going to want to miss tonight because we have Ring of Honor talk. That's right. This past week's TV tapings we're going to talk about. We'll get into that and a lot more for you guys. But I am your host, Gary Vaughan. And, of course, with me is Mr. Sean Garmer.
Yeah, I'm here.
And Mr. Paul Leazar.
Hey-yo.
Guys, we of course, we're going to talk lots of wrestling, but we have to mention the biggest game that just happened on Sunday night, and we have not got a chance to do the, conversation of what we thought and all that. So let's go ahead and jump into Super Bowl 51. I know all of us got a chance to watch it. The Patriots had this miraculous comeback and a huge overtime victory for them. There's a lot involved other than that. We had some commercials and other things like that to talk about. But, what was the biggest thing you took away from Sunday, Paul?
How great a game that was. I think that might have been the best Super Bowl that we've seen in the last 5, 6, 7 years, maybe. Like, it was great, especially when everybody, especially on social media, but everybody had sold the Patriots out, and then suddenly here comes Tom Brady, and people still complaining about that last touchdown. But, they pulled the biggest rabbit out of their hat that they might have ever done.
Yeah, I agree. And, it was kind of funny. It was almost like, Belichick goes into halftime and says, okay, guys, everything we planned, let's throw that away and let's get a new game plan. Installed it immediately, and it was the perfect game plan to beat the Falcons. And the Falcons didn't seem to change anything. I think that could have caused their downfall for sure. We got to give it credit, Sean. I mean, I know you talked a lot about this. If anybody, doesn't know, Sean and I do a show called Football to the Max, and I wasn't able to be on last night, but Sean and our co-host Randy Isabel both got a chance to talk a lot about this. So trust me, go listen to them talk about it. But Sean, kind of give us, maybe a summary of what you thought about it.
I mean, I don't know if they needed to change anything. It was really more about the Patriots defense finally figured out how to get to Matt Ryan, and they were still getting things going on offense. I mean, so it wasn't necessarily that they had to stop what they were doing. It was more about the Patriots just had a bit more urgency, and, Tom Brady was delivering, and the defense was tired. I mean, what are you going to do at that point? Your defense is tired, and, I don't know that you can, Matt Ryan takes that sack, then he gets out of field goal range. They kick that field goal, the game's over. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know if they had to change anything. It's just luck. Sometimes you get lucky.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, I agree. You get lucky. What I'm saying is you didn't have to change, but you had to fix something because there was a reason they stalled out. There's a reason that they could never get that field goal or get back and score another touchdown.
But they didn't stall out, though. Matt Ryan gets hit. Now, I don't think you need to be throwing on 3rd and 1. That's somebody's fault upstairs. But Matt Ryan gets hit, fumbles. And the second one, he gets sacked because the offensive line's not – they're rushing more people than the offensive line can block. And then there's a holding call. I mean, I don't know what you're changing there. That's just stuff that happens.
It happens, but you did not change enough. I think if you're looking at the game film, watching when they pretty much stayed with their path was, which they may have had to do. That a lot of teams can't just change things overnight. My point being is that they had to come when they noticed that, hey, these guys are coming back, and this defense has figured us out. They know exactly what we're doing. Hey, by the way, offensive coordinator. Maybe use some plays that are different configurations. Maybe, put Julio in a different spot, change things. You've got to make some adjustments there instead of just saying, oh, we're just going to go with what we're doing. Not only that, think about the Atlanta Falcons. Stalling out is third down for them because they were not in a lot of third downs this year. They were in a lot of first and second and then first down and then first down and then first down and then first and second down and then first. And third down was almost not in their vocabulary.
I think the biggest, difference, and the thing that I think I was paying attention to the most was Atlanta's defense, who I think was the biggest question mark out of everything on the field. I think you knew what both sides of the offensive ball were going to do, and certainly you felt like you knew what New England's defense was going to do, but they certainly sat on it for 3 quarters. But I think Atlanta's defense played perfectly for 3 quarters and then just completely fell apart. And there was some bad play calling on the offensive side too, like that throw on 3rd. I question still when they're that close to the goal line. Whenever they really just need to stay in there and get the field goal, get off the field and keep on rolling, right? But Atlanta's defense just completely fell apart. Like they couldn't do any, and part of it was how good New England's defense played in that last quarter. But good Lord, did they fall apart?
Yeah, but they got time. I mean, what the Patriots ran like 93 plays.
Oof.
God, how many times are you gonna go against a team like that? And then, for me, and not to mention, there was so many times that the Falcons the ball was in the air. Mm-hmm. Where are you? It's tipped. It's waiting for somebody to grab it, and nobody's there. It's like, if one of you guys would intercept the ball, the game's over. They were just not, like Paul said, they were just not themselves in that 4th quarter, and it just led to magic happening. Mm-hmm. Not to mention, you allowed 2 2-point conversions.
Huh. Yeah. and that happened. But if you ask me, I mean, the only coach and probably the only quarterback in this league that can do it at that level, Tom Brady, Bill Belichick. It's just a given. I mean, and you got to congratulate them. I mean, they did everything right, and they finished out the game. That was the most important thing, right? In 5 years, we won't remember. We'll remember a good game, but we'll just think, that was just another Tom Brady victory, like always. And Tom Brady may be the Ric Flair of football. Just that guy. I mean, of course, he's the most decorated quarterback in NFL history.
Well, he's got the most championships.
Most championships, the records. I mean, just everything to go with him. So he kind of, to me, is the Ric Flair. He, cemented himself in history right there. Yeah. So, I mean, but there's other things in the Super Bowl. I want to mention the commercials. I mean, I'll be honest with you guys. I wasn't a huge fan of this year's commercials. There was a few good ones. My favorite having to be, and I can't remember, and Sean, you'll probably tell, or you both probably know the actress's name. The lady from Last Man on Earth. That was my favorite one, the T-Mobile commercial.
Oh, yeah.
I can't think of her name right now.
Both of them. They had two. One that was a total spoof on 50 Shades of Grey, and then the other one where she's on the other end of the line and like wanting him to tell her stuff so she can, get off or whatever. Was so
I loved it.
The
Those
Melissa
are my
McCarthy
favorite.
one was funny too, where they kept telling her to, oh, this needs saving. Oh, what other catastrophic thing can happen to her? That was good. I mean, The Rock was in 2 commercials, so go him for 2 different movies.
Mm-hmm. I think short of actual TV show previews or movie previews, my favorite commercial had to be the Christopher Walken, Justin Timberlake commerul about the drink, where Walken just does the spoken word version of the NSYNC song. Like, that was perfect.
And the drink is called Bye. So, it's great.
That was awesome. I can't lie. I love that one as well. So, I mean, there were some good things in there. Of course, like Sean said, you got The Rock a couple times. So, I mean, that was really positive. I heard there was a Ric Flair one that got banned. But I don't know. That's what I heard. I don't know. That was rumor per se. Maybe I don't know.
There was a Nintendo Switch one too, so they got their commercial. Yeah.
So there was lots of different, commercials out there. There were a few good ones, but I really, for the most part, sometimes I just sat there, thinking, okay, that's not that great. Where's my great Doritos commercial?
Yeah, there was no Doritos commercial.
Yeah, and I missed if they had a Budweiser, the horses. I didn't see
the
those.
one with the no, they did not. That was like done on
they did
like
Bud Light,
online
didn't they?
or something. They did Bud Light. It was the one with the dog.
Yeah.
That talks to the guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and of course there was some, controversial stuff, and I think they had a controversial one in there somewhere.
And Lady Gaga had one hell of a performance, so.
Heck yeah. I mean, that was amazing. I mean, and the bravery of that lady jumping off the top of oh my God, that Reliant.
Yeah, I mean.
That's huge. It plays a giant, and she's jumping off the roof. Oh my God! I mean,
yeah, they need to sign her up to jump off the top of the cage. Screw Shane McMahon. Let's have Lady Gaga.
Tell you what, God bless the internet and how quickly they made memes of her jumping off the roof and then cutting to wrestling matches. Like, just 10 out of 10 internet. You really took it home.
That's great.
Did any of them do the bit? Because I mean, honestly, when she jumped off, I thought, man, there hasn't been that much money dropped off a roof since the whole Trump thing with Vince dropping money. I mean, because she's just millions of dollars falling.
I hadn't seen that. The ones I've seen mostly is the suicide cage drop because of just how funny that is with as far as the name of the character, and then the Shane jump from Mania this last year. But I'm sure there's others. I mean, I think the biggest takeaway should be Stranger Things season 2. Like, God, get here fast.
Oh,
unless you're Randy, he was pissed that it was at Halloween. Because he had just binge watched the first season, and he goes, "We're in February. Why the hell are you giving me something for Halloween? I want it now."
Mm-hmm. I know, and hopefully they're filming more because my God, these kids are going to grow up on us. Especially if you're spacing them out that far apart, for God's sakes. But yeah, I mean, I was thrilled. You don't know how happy I was. Everybody else was.
But you got. I'm excited for Iron Fist to come before that. So Netflix is all right with their shows right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and with friends of mine, they saw the new Pirates trailer and they were freaking out, and I just
that was kind of cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there was lots of good stuff. I mean, the Super Bowl is a lot of fun. I mean, I think all of us had a great time checking it out, and everything that just surrounds it, not just the game, but everything that surrounds it is so much fun. I stuffed myself. I mean, I drank and ate so much stuff that I thought I was going to throw up. Seriously, I sat there thinking I'm about to puke, and then I just held it, and then I worked out. I felt fine later, but man, I was like, I should not have eaten that much, and I should not have, just that much. It's just too much. So that's how it shows you how much fun I had, guys, right there. So, but yeah, I mean, it's been
sorry,
a great
people
week.
that did not give two craps about American football. You just probably turned it off. I know, but
yeah, you know what? We should have put that in the description. Hey, first 20 minutes of the show, if you're not an American citizen, you probably want to skip. So, because all you UK listeners are like, good God.
Well, UK,
they might have cared over there.
Yeah, I don't know about like Australia or anywhere else.
Yeah, but, yeah, let's move on then. Let's give them what they want to hear, right?
Oh God, yeah, more football later.
Yeah. So, but yeah, no. Let's actually get into some, other stuff besides that big XFL thing we're going to talk about. Let's go ahead and jump into some quick hits because we have some here that are very, very interesting. So we'll be right back with quick hits right after this, guys.
It's time for wrestling news. Quick hits.
All right.
Alrighty. Let's talk about some, really cool news that we just got tonight. And of course, maybe you heard earlier in the day. But the Rock and Roll Express is going into the WWE Hall of Fame, guys. And wow, I mean, this is a long, long time coming. But it's finally here, Paul. And I mean, I think it's great.
Yeah, I mean, these guys, one of the biggest tag teams to come out of the 70s and 80s, and even still had a big footprint in the 90s, and of course are still around today. We just saw them at the end of last year in the Apocalyptico for TNA. So these guys have had huge staying power. They've won so many tag titles. The list is probably longer than my arm. I mean, these guys are great, and just one of the definitions of tag teams. So this is incredibly well-deserved.
I was going to say, Paul must have a really long arm.
I don't want to brag or anything, but
I used to call him Sir Dunks a lot in high school, I'm sure. But
I thought Gary was going to go somewhere else with that. But
me too.
Yeah,
especially if you listen to the Raw show already.
Yeah.
Glad we didn't go there.
I've only got maybe one in the tank tonight for that, but we'll move on. Dude. Go ahead, Sean.
But yeah, I mean, it's amazing that they're going to be on stage with those mullets still, too. So, I mean, probably some of the greatest mullets in history of life, not to mention wrestling. But, that out of the way, they are the quintessential tag team as far as, the whole idea of babyface and peril exists because of this tag team right here. You're doing
Thank you, Ricky Morton.
Yeah, exactly. You're doing the Ricky Morton when you're doing the babyface and peril spot. Nobody did it better than him. And just the guys that they're small, but they're athletic and they're able to do, great things. Obviously, Shawn Michaels, Mario Jannetty, the Rockers, and so many that came after them are going to probably be more remembered by, this generation or whatever. But these guys, it's honestly, because they spent so much time outside of WWE, I thought that, they're going to take their sweet time to have them come in, but this is pretty cool to see that they're in there, and they're the second, group or whatever announced, because there's some other guys that are rumored, and a woman that spent more time in WWE, and you're going, oh, surprised they weren't announced first.
Yeah, and Sean, you mentioned this on when we did the Raw review that the possibility that is WB kind of likes to be the one to surprise. They don't like it when other people kind of figure out what they're doing, so they threw this one maybe in, and they're going to push those ones that you just mentioned.
The thing I love
back.
is where they attribute the website or the news source that broke the story. No, WWE, you gave them the story. Stop acting like they broke it, please. We're not dumb. Just stop. Please, stop. I'm sorry, I know nobody cares about that, but I laugh every time. Like, CBSSports.com did not break that story, WWE. Just quit.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, they're trying to get all these other media outlets some love, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's get that co-opted media. Because when it comes to talking bad about WWE, they're going to be right there to blast you too.
Mm-hmm. So, well, I bet, I guess, the positive note here is, despite who broke the news and all that stuff, it's all about these guys and Rock and Roll Express, well-deserved. I'm excited to see them. I'm really excited to see the speech, too. It's going to be a lot of fun to kind of see how those guys kind of interact.
Is Jim Cornette going to be
Oh, boy.
there?
Oh, boy.
Can't wait to get him on a live mic so he can blast some people.
Yeah, I can't wait.
It'd be great if he's the one to induct him.
Oh, God. Like Vince will be like, you are never coming here again. Thank you.
Oh, man.
Forget an induction for yourself, because it's not happening now.
He spends half his time talking about how Kevin Owens doesn't belong. Yeah.
Oh, God, yeah.
But
like, hey, Kevin Owens, you're still fat.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Like, I could just totally see him do something stupid like that.
And he's like, if you guys are thinking about signing the Young Bucks, y'all are idiots. Oh, but anyway.
Screw that Kenny Omega.
Yeah. Good God.
He didn't show up for a show like 5 years ago. I'm still pissed. Screw him.
Oh, boy.
But
yeah. Cornette would be fun just because of that factor, but Vince would never let that happen. The Hall of Fame would go off air for a few minutes until they took him off stage. So.
More like 20 minutes because he can't shut up. So
shoot it over to Renee Young. Renee Young, talk about something else.
Social
talk about
Media
your love
Lounge happening right now.
So, but yeah, I mean that's really cool just to see that these two guys are going to get in. I'm excited about that. So more to come on that. What's cool? We just also kind of we're talking and we found out that Asuka is now the longest reigning NXT Singles Champion, and that's of all the titles. This is really cool. I mean, this speaks highly of her and the work that she's doing. I really think, Sean, and it's kind of cool.
Yeah, she could stand a chance at breaking or getting really close to the Ascension record because she's probably going to hold it till at least WrestleMania. So, and she won it at WrestleMania last year, or the takeover before WrestleMania last year. So, pretty cool for her. And I mean, that shows that they had that much faith in her to have it for almost a whole year. I mean, that's not something we see all the time. In WWE especially.
She's the longest reigning singles champion, by the way, Gary. The Ascension still hold the record for the longest continuous title run at 364. Asuka, if she holds it till the next takeover, which I'm assuming is going to be on the 1st, she would have it for exactly 365 days if she makes it all the way to the next takeover.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's pretty cool. Asuka's great. I mean, she's something completely different than what anybody's expecting a WWE women's wrestler to be right now, and people love it, at least in NXT. Obviously, the big question mark will always exist about how well to succeed on the main roster, but I think Asuka has the best chance out of anybody right now to succeed.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's really cool to have her be that person that could be at that point and succeed and be the longest reigning champion. And you're right. I said longest reigning singles champion of all the titles. Well, that's not all the titles because the tag titles are in that mix. And so, yeah. But I really do. I hope that she is that person because I think that she's got that intimidation factor. She's got that, for right now, the most exciting momentum I think of even some of the men as part of NXT. So really, congratulations to Asuka so far. Doing really good, and I hope she does a lot more in the near future.
I don't think Asuka's going to have a problem because she's pretty much like Samoa Joe of the women's division, and she is cool. She's not like Nia where she's just this presence and you kind of have to get used to her being there or whatever. Asuka's cool. She's got her colors that, girls can identify with, and she's got the mask, and she just kicks ass. I mean, like, I don't know how you can't, like, announce her or the Raw after WrestleMania or SmackDown after WrestleMania. Like, I can't imagine the people aren't going to go crazy for that.
I only question it because there has never been a huge successful Asian star in the WWE. And honestly, obviously times have changed, and Asuka is just so different from everything else that they're doing that I think she will succeed. You never know, especially when you get to the main roster, and very few NXT call-ups have had a ton of success. That's all I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. That does make you really have those fears about, the way that they would bring her up and how successful she could really be. I do, have those concerns too because of the fact that, I think that Vince may not really know exactly how he wants to use her and some of the plans going forward. And I think all of us could sit here and say, we could help you figure this out. But I think Vince has his own way of thinking of things, and he's probably the one we've got to worry about in this whole mix. We see Gail Kim as one example of that. There, she came in. She's a great wrestler. She's great talent. She's of Asian descent, and we really felt like, she could do something. And then that was very short-lived. And even though Jim Ross was behind her all the way, Vince really never really was. And so that's a huge, mistake, I think, on his part.
Well,
hopefully we don't see that on Asuka.
Times were different back then, and of course, how attractive Vince thinks you are during that time also mattered a heck of a lot more than it does today. So apparently we've lost Gary here. So I mean that's why. I mean that's the thing. Like Vince didn't think that she was hot enough, so he didn't do much with her. But he may think the same as for Asuka, but I don't know that matters so much now because you're trying to cultivate so much different things with the women that I don't know you can. I mean, Vince could still think that way in his mind. He might say, I don't know that I want her to be the figurehead of my division, but I just don't see how you could use her in any different way than you're seeing her being used in NXT right now and think that that's going to work.
I agree with that wholeheartedly, and obviously I think it's going to depend a great matter on which brand she shows up on too. But I think it's pretty safe to say she's going to end up on Raw. Like you said, it's a different era. There's a lot of different things at play now than there were back in Gail Kim's time, or even further back. So I will always, until they continually show that they can succeed more often than not with these NXT call-ups, I think there's always going to be a question mark, no matter who you call up. I questioned whether Finn Balor was going to work or not whenever they called him up. They nailed that. So
yeah, certainly. And you gave us a great segue here to talk about Finn Balor has already begun training in the Performance Center for ranking and return to WWE, and looks like whether he has a match at WrestleMania 33 or not, certainly, the day after Extreme Rules, or I think Payback is the first one, actually. But I think that would go to SmackDown, so whatever. Maybe still Extreme Rules. You'll see him ready to go by then.
Yeah, this is great news. We talked a little bit about this on the last episode, I think we did too, where it was sort of still up in the air about whether he would wrestle or whether he would just show up. Well, now it looks like he's going to, 33 is the target date for him to come back, but if he can't I would certainly think that the first week or maybe even the second week afterwards, you have him come back and start wrestling again, which is going to be great. Raw really needs some help at the top of the card, somebody fresh, and Joe is that, and then you throw Finn back in the mix. I think you're going to be pretty good.
Yeah, I think with all the talent you have going in there, you bring in Finn, it's basically like having a fresh guy because he was around and then immediately injured.
Right.
So, there's so much that you can do with him. He never really even got to have other than having the match with Kevin Owens and everything, he never really got to have a feud or anything like that. So, there's so much they can do with him, and he can only grow, you'd hope, and that he would get this killer reaction when he comes back to. Hopefully WWE doesn't botch it like they did with Seth Rollins. Is all we can hope for, I guess, at that point. But,
right.
Leave it to WWE. They'll figure out how to do it one way or the other. Speaking of WWE, she was already getting, Vince was paying her for the loss of Warrior and everything. So it's not like she wasn't getting money from WWE already, but now they have upped that scale, and Dana Warrior is now a part of WWE, the company, as she is a brand ambassador, multi-year deal for her. Kind of cool. I mean, we've already seen her speak. She seems, very well spoken, knows what she's doing. Seems like a good fit.
Yeah, and I don't know exactly how far this is going to extend to her actually going out and doing whatever for the WWE. But certainly, I mean, realistically, what we can tell you is that it's pretty confident, or I feel confident in saying she'll be hosting or giving away the Warrior Award for however long she has the deal. So at least there's that, and whether she actually ends up going out and doing talks and talking to other companies or whatever, I think it's pretty well set that at least she's going to be there.
Gary, you're back.
Yeah, sorry. Robert Irvine heard me talking about Gail Kim and cut my connection. So I convinced him to let me back on. Okay, so have you guys moved on?
He was certainly hoping that you weren't stuck on some impossible, issue or whatever. Yeah. But I made the joke and then I was like, oh damn it, I don't have a connection, so whatever.
Did y'all move on to something else?
Yeah, we've moved on already by then.
Oh, come on. Let's talk more about Asian female wrestlers. But no,
we did talk about Asuka for a while.
But what are we talking about now here, guys?
We're talking about Dana Warrior becoming part of WWE now.
Well, I mean, she re-signed and doing the same job that she's been doing since her husband passed, and I'm glad that they're continuing that, and she's, continuing to help spread, the brand, and, with every place that she goes and talks about her husband, she can bring in the WWE, and she can do all the things that maybe they need her to, they can bring her in to kind of be a spokesman. So I really think it's cool. I mean, I think it's really neat that WWE really kind of has that family feel in a way, because, let's be honest, we've noted that, they're kind of cold sometimes, but I think at the heart of it, Vince, Triple H, and Stephanie, they do keep their promises. They still hold the values of let's keep these people connected, and, it speaks volumes because it's so easy they could have forgotten about Dana Warrior and her family. They could have just been like, we kind of did our part. We're moving on. And, still using her is a great deal. So, but I guess you guys kind of got your points across about what you wanted to say about that. Mm-hmm. So let's go ahead and move on, and let's talk about some injured guys who, have been away for a while now. And so we'll talk about a few of them here, but I do want to start about one that's going to be possibly a big hit at WrestleMania 33, and that is, of course, Finn Balor. He's starting to train again, getting back into the mix of, being a full-time wrestler. He's trying to get back to that point. And WrestleMania 33 is right here, and it looks like that's probably the date that we could see a return for him. What do you think about Finn Balor being back for WrestleMania 33?
Well, Gary, take it away because we talked about this.
Oh, so you didn't inform me. Okay.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I try. I don't know how to inform you.
Well, you should have said, "Hey, this is what we talked about. We talked about this, this, and this." So, did you say anything else? Tell me right now before I.
That's it. That's the only thing. I mean,
okay. You didn't talk about Charlie Daniels doing the halftime show at the WWE WrestleMania 33 or nothing like that?
No, I mean, that's wishful thinking on your end, but...
gosh darn it. I just want to have breakfast with him one day. One day...
They are going to Florida, not Georgia, so...
Oh, that's right. Different place. I still want to have breakfast with him, though. One of these days, I'll have breakfast with Charlie Daniels.
I mean,
but anyway...
when they do go... If they go to Atlanta again, they can say, well, Vince went down to Georgia, so there's the devil, and... we can go on. So
okay, so you guys already blew that spot for me for Finn Balor, so it's cool. I'm excited about it. I really hope it's a triumphant return for him. I'm assuming you have to have build, though, right? I mean, for him to come back, you got to do something at least a month ahead, or do you just think it's
really
a surprise?
Have to.
Just a surprise, just out of nowhere. No, he's got to wrestle. Come on, he needs.
He may not be ready though. He may not be ready exactly at WrestleMania. What's he gonna do then?
Yeah, and where do you shovel him in on that card?
You have guys that, maybe I don't know, Triple H. Well, who's he gonna wrestle now? I mean, he's got to squash somebody, so why not be Finn Balor?
He's still wrestling Seth Rollins.
Seth Rollins may not be back.
Yeah, but were you gonna have him wrestle somebody else that may not be back yet? I mean.
If you can't have Seth, you scrap that match, I think.
No, Finn's going to be back. He's okay. No, I don't know. I just have my heart of hearts believing that he could possibly be back. I think he's in a better shape. I just
personally don't believe that you need to... For one, Finn Balor being on the card's not going to sell any more WrestleMania tickets. Number two, there's no need to... rush him into something when you can just start all over again the night after on Raw, or going into Extreme Rules and start building for that. He hasn't been part of the plans. I don't really see the point, but that's.
No. I'm kidding around with all this stuff. I mean, honestly, and the fair thing is that if you don't have a month building towards WrestleMania, him showing up would just be a big pop for the crowd. I mean, if they can figure out something
for him in after Fastlane, then go ahead, right? But
yeah, But if you guys are really concerned about him not being healthy enough to go, that would not be a good idea. But I mean, if he is healthy enough, and I don't know. I mean, they kind of act like he is going to be there at that point and be ready. I agree with you. After Fastlane is the best time to do it. I mean, that's the point. Maybe even have him come into Fastlane, make a surprise appearance or something, But him being a surprise at WrestleMania, does that really do anything for anybody? I don't know. I don't know unless he's coming in to save the day, or he's going to make a surprise appearance for some reason, which could be a good deal, which could be a kind of a cool thing too. I don't know. Anyway, you work your way around it, though. Let's be honest. Don't you get excited about having Finn Balor somewhere, even if he's not wrestling? I mean, I think it'd be exciting. So
yeah, I mean, if he doesn't wrestle at the show, you can certainly still have him show up and at least get you going towards something the next night on Raw if you want to do that. But I wouldn't have him wrestle. I don't think that makes a lot of sense.
Although I'll say this, if some way, somehow, Finn Balor shows up at WrestleMania 33 and behind him is Naito, I will give that WrestleMania 10 immediately. So,
I mean, how could you not?
Yeah. I'm just throwing that out there just because I wanted to have Naito one day at WrestleMania. But anyway, you guys talked about Finn Balor. I'm excited about him. I'm excited about hearing him training and coming back. I was joking around and just having fun with it. But this guy is, somebody who I hope gets a chance to do what we want him to do, and that's have a long-term run. I worry with Seth Rollins getting re-injured. It really kind of has my fears going with Finn. Like, oh, please God, don't re-injure yourself, in a short term, like we've seen Seth. So, but moving on, there's another guy that'll be returning to NXT pretty soon here, it appears, and that is Hideo Itami. And what do you guys think about this return? I mean, he's a talented guy that's got the short end of the stick when it comes to injuries as well.
Yeah, I think that's calling it light there. I don't know what you do with Kenta at this point. There's obviously a great amount of opponents for him to have there. Him and Roderick Strong would be awesome. I mean, him and anybody at the top of that card right now would be stellar. I think you got to be real careful with him now, because that shoulder and that arm have taken a beating.
Yeah, I feel bad for him because, could he just get injured again?
Mm-hmm.
And then we're talking about, do they have to start wondering if it's worth the investment to have him do rehab and do all this over again? At some points, just like what happened with Bad News Barrett. Once you start having a lot of injuries, the confidence in the guy, no matter how much NXT needs you or 205 Live needs you or whatever they want to put him in, how much that matters, because it's more of a problem for them to have him there than to just not have him at all.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, trust me, I want him to do well, and I want him to become the guy that they paid for him to become, and not be that only big star that kind of started the whole NXT revolution to not make it in some form or fashion because of injuries and whatever. But you got to be real about it too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of concern with Hideo, and I think that the guy, has proven that he's super talented, that he can, do a lot of great things for you, but you just got to have him healthy, and that's the biggest problem, especially with the WB schedule and the way they do things, and with NXT doing everything that they do, they don't have to have that strenuous schedule as much as if you were on the main roster, but I think this is going to put a lot of fear in WWE, especially about moving him up to a more full-time schedule, to a schedule that's really going to have him going a lot of days. And so, they've even seen some of these guys coming from NXT and getting injured. Finn Balor, we saw. Heck, you can even throw in Sami Zayn. Some of these people coming from NXT getting injured is becoming more of a theme than we like to see. So I think that that's going to be another knock on that guy, and I don't want to see that happen, but it's probably going to be there. Tajiri is another guy that's returning. He's back on a full-time schedule. Of course, he's going to be doing a lot of 205 Live stuff, I'm sure, too. But what do you think? I mean, at least he wasn't out too long.
Yeah, it's good to know the leg injury wasn't all that serious. Glad to see him come back this soon, and we'll see what they do with him going forward. But I certainly think he's more value to them, training and trying to get you inroads over in Japan.
Yeah, Tajiri, I mean, this is going to happen when you get older, right? You're more susceptible to injury. But, thankfully he's going to be back on the road and back healthy, and I guess he'll keep going with that feud with Brian Kendrick.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's some great returns for the WWE. They've got some key people back in place. And of course, I think the biggest key is Finn Balor. And he's the guy that I think a lot of us are going to stare at and hope that, he makes a triumphal return. We'll see. These other guys are great, but I think they've got a lot of questions ahead. But yeah, that's quick hits for us this week. Of course, we want to, let everybody know also, we did hear the stuff about Hulk Hogan. We kind of talked about Hulk Hogan a lot on this show. Really, there's not much more to say about the guy.
With that, it's like when he officially signs or he shows up on TV, then we'll just talk about him again.
Exactly. So trust me, we heard about it too, people. We're just not going to waste your time until we know more. But yeah, let's move on. Let's talk about the XFL. And once again, the reason we're talking about the XFL is because they had that big 30 for 30 last week. And we, were, considering talking about this a long time ago when it came up. But, we wanted to wait till the show came out, us get a chance to watch it. And Sean and I actually did when we did our Super Bowl preview, we kind of talked about the XFL and really kind of stuck on the football side of things. But as I was telling Sean, I said, I really want to delve into this thing from the wrestling point of view. And I know Paul can help us out a ton on that. and really get in depth about how the XFL affected wrestling and the WWE in general. And we also know this is the time when Vince McMahon bought WCW, which is another huge investment for WWE. And a lot of things were circulating around. So before we get too much into that, Paul, what did you think about the 30 for 30 and everything about that whole documentary?
So I'm a big fan of the entire 30 for 30 series. I haven't really watched one where I felt like I had wasted my time or that was overly bad or anything. There have been stuff I've been less interested in. This one wasn't the case. I watched a fair few XFL games when it was on live. I remember watching the very first game, and I definitely remember watching the blowout that was their big finale game, the $1 million game. I thought this documentary was really good and very interesting, and so much in the fact that it really focused on the relationship between NBC and Vince McMahon, which has been something that we continually talk about, even when it comes to them renewing wrestling TV shows and stuff like that, just how close those two have been the entire time, right? I mean, you got, so many different things because of the relationship, like the Saturday Night Main Event revival, for example, is a great example. That was pretty much, I think, given to him because of the NBC relationship and stuff like that. Everything else I think was pretty typical. Like you focused on the big players, like Tommy Maddox's story. Of course, He Hate Me. A bunch of other things that were great. And I mean, the XFL died because of the direct relationship between Vince not wanting it to cut into wrestling at the time. So I think it covered all the bases pretty well, actually.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, we kind of had a podcast talking about this for about, I want to say 30 minutes. And we talk about it before we even talk about our Super Bowl picks. So if you want to go back and go to the football to the, it's on the title. So if you subscribe to WTF Network, all you have to do is kind of go search there for a little bit, and you'll find it. Gary and I talked about for about 30 minutes about this whole thing. But I think having Bob Costas on there ripping it the whole time is hilarious. It is rather nice about things. Like, they overdid the whole how much that show, like, how much that game, that the thing with the guy didn't put gas in the generator was. Like, that sucked, but it's not like the end-all be-all happened because of that game. Like, sometimes it was almost like I was watching a movie and not a documentary. You know what I'm saying? Like, they over-exaggerated a little bit. I do think that, again, we need to realize that this is not just about the XFL. He says it, being Dick Ebersol's son, the guy that directed it, that this is just as much a love story between Vince and Dick Ebersol as it is about what happened with the XFL and everything. So That needs to be plainly stated for people who maybe are just hearing us talk about it and haven't watched the thing. But if you don't get that, the end of the documentary will let you know. But I mean, I think overall, other than embellishing some things, like the thing with WCW that they point at the beginning, Vince did not unify wrestling by buying WCW. Let's be clear about that. Neither did he, that part where they say something about he'd owned wrestling in 1979, no, that didn't happen either. But, ESPN's not going to fact check WWE because they're just not. But, I mean, I think other than just nitpicking at silly things, overall, this is one of the better ones they've ever had, and I've watched a lot of them. I enjoyed it. I think, obviously, having two things that you care about makes a lot of sense here, but getting to the wrestling part of it, which is why we're doing this, because I think if we talk about the football part again, people are going to go nuts. So, the wrestling part of it is, number one, I think tying too much wrestling into that thing really hurt it. Like, the point they make about Vince coming out acting like Vince McMahon, the WWE character, probably wasn't good. And then having The Rock on there, he wasn't just on there that one time they showed him. He was literally on, I don't know how many games cutting promos. Stone Cold was on, Triple H, The Undertaker. It was way too much. It was like Vince saying, I've got this other hot property. Let me try to infuse so much of this other hot property in here that sometimes I felt like I didn't know if I was watching WWE or if I was watching football. And, I mean, JR being on commentary is fine, but, like, King has no business being on commentary for these games. Neither did Ventura either, but these are talking about wrestling personalities should not be doing football games. Let's be honest about that, too.
Yeah.
It felt like Vince just didn't want to pay some extra money to get some real guys in here.
Well, Vince is very much I trust the guys that are my guys. These are the people that I've employed for a reason for this many years because I trust them. I know what they're going to do. They know what I want. Going outsourcing for people does not always work because none of these people are going to get who I am, what I'm trying to achieve. Kind of like, they showed in the 30 for 30, the announcer that they hired. It didn't take very long for them to demote him because he wasn't doing everything Vince wanted. Vince wanted more of the smut, talk more about the cheerleaders, talk more about how, these people are doing this and all the controversial stuff. And, of course, you got Ed, over there saying, no, don't be like that. Do this as professional as possible. Be the NFL. And that's exactly the opposite of what Vince wanted. And this was basically WWE football attitude era. That's what this was all about. And that was great for all the wrestling fans. And trust me, at this time period in history, there were a lot of wrestling fans. I mean, I remember, trust me, I lived it. I was in high school around this time. And I was also, I think, going to community college pretty soon after. And 316 shirts, rock shirts, everybody in the world talked about wrestling. It seemed like that at least. It's not like that now, not as much as it was then. So this made complete sense of why they did that. But then again, like Sean said, it hurt. It hurt the other audience, like the people who just watch the NFL, who don't care about wrestling. Those people were turned off very quickly. And even people just kind of peeking in, I think it really did affect what happened with the XFL. And I think, it's kind of funny for us to say that, but wrestling really affected the XFL. I'm not sure if the XFL, to an extreme extent, hurt wrestling, but that's the one thing I did want to kind of talk about.
Oh, no, it hurt wrestling because
that's what I'm saying. Go ahead.
Vince lost a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't really have to pay attention to wrestling so much because right when the league started, it was WrestleMania time. It was after he'd bought WCW. But I wonder if maybe it affected how he booked the WCW guys or whether he had his full attention on what he was really doing. And not to mention it also gets hurt by the fact that day where they wanted to make WCW a separate brand, and then Buff Bagwell and Booker T going out and have a match, and it was terrible, and that killed it. But I think what it hurt more was that, I mean, right after this, right, they have to go and deal with, they go on a downturn, which I don't know how much XFL really hurt them in that regard, but you have to wonder if maybe it made Vince kind of question himself, or Vince just lost some care in a way because he really wanted the XFL to work, and he's always wanted to have this thing of he doesn't just want to be a wrestling guy. So I forgot that we were doing this, and I would have gone back and tried to read more about the lasting effect it may have had on wrestling. It's the money thing is one of the big things that it affected.
Yeah, and it was. My point was, though, is I understand it hurt wrestling, but I think the XFL was hurt more overall. I think wrestling took a hit, but it was obvious that wrestling was still the stronger factor and was able to survive despite taking the hits it took.
Oh, but but they kept those things separate aside from having the wrestlers on there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I agreed. But you think of the split thought process of Vince is trying to focus on two major things here. I think it affected what we got in wrestling because of that as well.
I think we might overestimate how much of an effect this had on wrestling. And I think the money thing is a great thing to bring up because I think that certainly affected forward thinking. But when you look at 2001 as far as what the WWF was doing, it might have been that company's one of the most successful years the company ever had. It's the best WrestleMania, I think, by still a large margin, even amongst fans who are still around today, and even fans who were there for the show and maybe aren't into wrestling anymore. I still think people are going to point to that one and be like, "Yep, that's the best one." And you go forward throughout that year, like there's just all sorts of great stuff happening that year. You have The Rock, Steve Austin, Triple H. They're all pretty much at the height of their popularity.
Aside from the Alliance storyline sucking.
Right, that's later. And that's where I think the money came in because they didn't sign so many people from WCW. One, because I think if the XFL hadn't taken up so much of the money that WWF was putting in, you might have still gotten the WCW split off. But even then, I think you might have had some bigger names.
Yeah, you might have had Goldberg and I think Hogan for sure.
Hogan for sure.
I don't know if Sting would have came. Yeah.
But certainly, I think some of the bigger names that people wanted to see would have been there. And I think the XFL taking up the money that it did, I think that sort of affected that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it really interests me because we know Vince was never gonna, lose focus on making sure WWE was successful. But I still, wonder if he could get his head around some of the things that were going on, with his company, with a full focus because he was trying to focus on the XFL, getting that off the ground. And we all know Vince is a workhorse, trust me. I mean, I hear it all the time from all the old veterans, from Jim Ross, people who work with him, says the guy never sleeps. And, that's with just focusing on his company, WWE. I imagine that this guy really was affected by, the lack of sleep, the lack of focus, because he was trying to get off a major football league and trying to make it successful. Then deal with all the controversy that came with, because this was not like he dealt with controversy before with the steroids thing, but this is also controversy that comes into play with people attacking him again. Because think about it, he was getting attacked already by all the moms and all these other people that were totally against the Attitude Era, right? The people thought that he was putting smut on TV and they didn't like all the stuff that Sable was doing and the way that they were objectifying women and just everything that the Attitude Era had to offer with violence. He was now getting that on the other side of the ball when it comes to football, right? Because they said, oh, look at all these things you're trying to hurt people, hurt players. You want blood and guts in football. And then being attacked by the sports world because, like Sean just mentioned a while ago, Bob Costas was just ripping on him. And those people were on him because they didn't like the fact that he was coming in there and taking a sport and trying to change it into a more entertainment thing and blood and guts. So I really do wonder how different the WCW purchase, the things that they did when it came to that time period. It was successful, but how much different the future would have been without the XFL being in play.
I wonder too. I think the first foray for Vince outside of wrestling and doing the XFL, I don't think you would have had a lot of the stuff that you've gotten since then that he's since gone out and done, like WWE films or anything like that, where he's tried to push the boundaries of what his guys can do outside of just wrestling. And I know Sean already brought up that he's always been wanted to be more than just a wrestling guy, but I think him trying to find extensions for what these people could do, I think this was the first foray But without this, you probably wouldn't have had WWE films or anything else outside of wrestling that he has done.
I wonder if, like, it had been successful, how many more things we would have right now of wrestlers doing other things. And how much, I wonder if they would take more chances on the network. Like, I remember we joked about, and I joked about, what if they really had a sitcom with some of these with the wrestlers? Like, you know, like, would we see something like that? Because he thinks that anything that involves his wrestlers would be gold. Because the XFL worked, and he's getting extra money from the XFL or whatever, you know. I wonder if the XFL will be on the network, you know. But it's just like, you know, it's one of these interesting what ifs, you know, of what went wrong and everything else. But obviously the Vince having, and I think that's one of the things that may have hurt it, is how successful WWE was at the time. Because he felt like he could do no wrong, because WWE is flying high at this point. Like Paul mentioned, you know, biggest WrestleMania ever, right here, and maybe not like grossing, but, you know, as far as like critically, fondly remembered, all that kind of stuff, the hilt of the creative powers of the Attitude Era, the ending of the Attitude Era for a lot of people right there, that WrestleMania. So, you know, when you got an ego the size of Vince, and you're telling him that, no, what you're doing is wrong, well, he's going to be like, well, I got a company over here that's doing this. Like, no, what I'm doing is right. People want this. And he thinks, and he starts using that wrestling brain to try to fix things instead of using the practical brain, and knowing that you can't do a skit with the guy goes in the cheerleader's locker room after he blacks out. Like, no, you can't do that. Like, that's bad. But that's Vince, right? You know, that's how he thought of solving a problem, and it's just probably wasn't the best way to solve the problem.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, I think that, you know, it would be very interesting to see that world if the XFL would have kept going and turned into play.
Not to mention that blimp falling wasn't good either.
Oh my god!
I forgot about the blimp thing until I watched
Me
that.
Me too.
I was like, oh crap! Yeah, that blimp fell into the restaurant or whatever.
Oh jeez!
And you know what was also bad for them was the WWF New York was such a bad deal. Like, that was such a bad decision by them. Like, I get it then. Like, you're trying to make the biggest statement you possibly can, but buying real estate in Times Square and then trying to keep that thing up 365, good lord. You're just asking for it.
Yeah. You know, they tried with that, but, you know, Vince is not, you know, one of these guys who's, you know, just going to stop taking chances, and it's been proven, and he continues to do it. You guys already mentioned the WWE films and things like that, and, you know, who knows what the next thing is, and I'm sure he's going to do some other great things, but, you know, the XFL may have been a venture that was failed, but I think some good came out of it. You know, like you guys said, there were some other opportunities he was able to take, and you know, it's just really cool to see how Vince really is respected amongst people, you know, outside of, you know, the wrestling circle. You know, you just don't think about that, but it is kind of cool to see that other people do respect the stuff that he does. And I really, you know, kind of, you know, this documentary kind of made me grow fonder of Vince, you know, and I'll say it this way, and for people that don't, you know, live in the U.S., or maybe you're not a sports fan when it comes to the NFL, you know, here in America. But Sean and I follow an owner in Jerry Jones who's very controversial. People hate the guy because he runs his team. He's does what he wants to do. By the way. Yes, he is. And I just look at him, and there's no wonder that him and Vince are kind of friends, because they kind of think alike on that stuff. They want to be in charge of their product. They brand very well. They know how to make a brand, and they know how to sell it, which Jerry Jones has done just that. Vince McMahon's done just that. And I love the whole thought process of seeing that respect and seeing how Vince does things and how other people in the sports world do their things just like Vince, but are very successful in other ways. So that's exciting to see, and I thought it was kind of cool. And plus, if you ever listen to Jericho's podcast with Charlie, the son of Ed, they talk about how Jerry Jones was rooting for The Rock and stuff at WrestleMania 32. I think it's hilarious because Jerry Jones is old. But anyway,
I think the coolest part is the legacy of almost everything that they used in the XFL is now used in the NFL.
Yep.
Very
true. And
then that came from Vince. Vince. I mean, too bad they can't use that for wrestlers because you obviously would be knowing what moves they're doing. But I mean, it would be cool to have them mic'd or whatever if they could.
Yeah, exactly. You're right. So, I mean, we've had, a good conversation here about the XFL. And I think people, if you've not checked out this 30 for 30, you need to go do it. And if you're not really a giant football fan, you're more of a wrestling fan, it doesn't matter. Go watch this. You'll have fun. You get a chance to see a side of Vince that maybe you've never seen before. And it made me respect him a little bit more, to be honest with you.
Dude, that dude had some brass balls back then to say those things. I mean, the NFL wasn't nearly what it is today, where it's untouchable or whatever, but still, some of the things he was saying was like, my God, are you really listening to yourself right now? Like, whoa.
And one last thing I want to say, and you guys can touch on if you want to add anything else, but one last thing, and I wanted to say this, and I didn't really bring it across when I was saying Jerry Jones. Watching this made me appreciate Vince in a different way. I feel like I get it now. I get some of the decisions he makes that I kind of feel like are stupid sometimes, and they end up turning out just fine. And I question him. Same way with Jerry Jones. And both those guys now I kind of look at and say, man, when they actually do die, what are we losing? We could be losing a lot with those guys actually passing on because the people following them may not have those balls, may not have those guts to stand up to other people, and so, you're losing people that, you complain about, but now you understand they actually were very valuable. So, you never know. I just look at that, and that's kind of something I learned coming out of this 30 for 30. So, but yeah, unless you guys have anything else to bring up, that is our...
It certainly makes you root for... You wish it worked.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's what I got from it, too, was, man, they really make you wish that it worked.
And it makes you wish that they'd bring it back in a way. I still have my jersey. And I wore it to WrestleMania 32. So
they still have the copyright for XFL. And I know at least there's some rumblings in the aftermath of how well this thing is done, of maybe they do bring it back or something.
Well, they are doing there is a spring league that's happening for real. So,
I think there's also talk of putting the games on the network too. So,
would people really go back and watch those though? Like,
I might.
I mean, aside from like 5 guys, like nobody ever really became anything. So,
yeah, but. You never know. I mean, I wouldn't. I trust me. I'll be one of the viewers if the XFL comes back. I will watch it.
I mean, yeah, if they call that spring league that's happening the XFL or whatever, I'm not gonna hate it.
Yeah, Jerry Jones make that happen. He's the one guy that can make that happen. So.
Yep.
But anyway, well, that is the XFL. Of course, if you want to watch the documentary, it was called. What was it? It was the XFL. That was the XFL. I guess maybe it was. This was the XFL. There you go. But yeah, now, guys, I think we've kind of talked about all our big topics. I think the last thing we need to talk about is Ring of Honor TV from this past week. So why don't we go ahead and do that, and we will be right back with that right after this.
Just go on ahead. I keep
all right.
To put the song in there.
No worries. Go ahead, Paul. Let's do this thing.
All right, so we get a match-heavy episode this go around, but there's still some story going on, and we opened with one of those that I had completely forgotten about, and they so thankfully give us a video to retouch on it. A couple of months ago, I think it was November, War Machine had a tag team match with PJ Whitmer and Punisher Martinez that ended up turning into this huge brawl, and nothing ever really got settled. So they give them this match. Wow. War Machine dominates early. I think you have BJ and Martinez have really come together to work as a great tag team. And it might just be because they let Punishment and Martinez do a lot of the work. BJ did not feel out of place in this match, so I think that's something to take away because he is the small guy out of all these giants in there. And I think that's something to keep in mind as we talk about this. But it goes to a double count out as they end up brawling to the floor and just sort of do away with caring about the ref and end up fighting all the way to the back area. And at the end of the episode, they even catch them still fighting. So this clearly is going to be an issue that they're moving forward with.
You know what? I kind of did forget about this whole thing too, honestly. And like Paul, I mean, the video package definitely helped jog your memory of what's going on here. I'll say this. I mean, you got a pretty halfway decent match between these people. I mean, all four of these guys were just kind of, just fighting their hearts out. And I love, what we got just because it was kind of violent. You got a chance to see these guys, back in that whole, we want to kill each other mode. So I really enjoy it. I'm a huge fan of Punisher Martinez, and so I was glad to see him in this and, doing his thing again. And of course, the rest of these guys, just excellent. Ray Rowe, all those guys getting a chance to even in the episode fighting was kind of special too, because now it's just kind of becoming a blood feud or whatever you want to say. They really hate each other. So I'm glad they were expounding on the significance of that, because I don't think they would put that at the end of the episode if they didn't want you to know how much, they want this to prove to you that these guys hate each other.
Yeah, I completely agree. And in a division that now needs a new up-and-coming tag team, now that you've had Keith Lee and Shane Taylor split due to different signings, I think it's this could be fruitful in that. I mean, we'll talk about this some later when I bring it up, but it feels like almost the Young Bucks are damn near untouchable as the champions right now. Like, I don't think there's a team, maybe just outside of War Machine, that could beat them for the championships like any given day. And I only say this because I watched them just dominate with the Briscoes at the Dallas show here on the last Saturday. But there's the Young Bucks, the Briscoes, the War Machine, and then just everybody else like way far down the ladder.
Mm-hmm. And that begs the question of who is that team that can beat them. And I don't know where in the mix this Hardy thing is. I don't know, Paul. I mean, I'm kind of up there. They showed Hardy's face on a video. I don't know if that was a tease or if they're actually going to do something with that.
They are. The match is scheduled for Supercard of Honor April 1st.
Okay, cool. So now there is a team. Now, I don't think they'll actually let them win the titles, but that's a team right there that's going to be able to match up against, I think, the Young Bucks. But you're exactly right on this, Paul. Really, no one in Ring of Honor is really, I think, up to the task of beating the Young Bucks. The Young Bucks are on top of their game right now. They do look untouchable. So when you get to Supercard of Honor, I think that's their first opportunity you're going to have a chance to see where they do look like they are, gonna maybe have a misstep here or there. But right now, they're just smoothly going through anything that is thrown their way.
Absolutely. And let's just go ahead and talk about it. They have a match with the Tempura Boys for the tag team title match, Show and Yo. They don't. So the opening match is all Young Bucks, and they even show all the big spots that they hit during the commercial break. Show and Yo get in a few spots here and there, but once again, we know the Bucks aren't losing the belts all the way up until April. So they're winning this, and it just continues to feed into what we were just talking about, that there's nobody really up at their level to feel like that they're going to lose the belts.
Yeah, exactly. And you mentioned the closest team I think even it could be into play, and that's the Briscoes, right? Mm-hmm. And Christopher Daniels is on a different path. The addiction is not It's not their deal anymore. Not right now, at least. So there is just no competition at this point. And, I think it's fun. The Young Bucks are a blast to watch. So I really don't have a problem with it, per se, to be honest with you, because I do like the Young Bucks so much, and they're so exciting to watch, even though they, really, let's be honest, dominate most of the tag teams coming their way. They're still entertaining. They're still fun, despite all that.
Mm-hmm. I don't have a problem with the Young Bucks either. I don't want that to come across as I'm a big fan of theirs too. For a promotion like Ring of Honor, who is so much about the competition and everything building up to the big matches, when you don't have that, it seems like you're missing a big piece of the puzzle.
Mm-hmm. You're right, and it is so weird to have this into play. But like anything else, Ring of Honor also does a good job of hiding things, I think, because they can kind of put other things in the forefront. We may not see another big tag match for maybe, they'll skip a taping showing those guys, or they'll just have where they come out and talk or something like that. So I don't think it's going to be on the forefront. We're not going to have a title match every Ring of Honor TV taping. We're also not going to have maybe these guys even appear on every TV taping. So I think they can hide it until they do finally get to April. But it is kind of weird, like you said. It is kind of odd. But trust me, anytime I get a chance to see those guys on my TV and saying "suck it, delete," I'm on board.
Yeah, we have the 15th anniversary show before we even get to Supercard of Honor, so that should be mentioned too, because that'll be actually on pay-per-view, where Supercard of Honor will just be a VOD. So there's some big stuff happening in Ring of Honor. It won't always be thrown in your face,
Yeah, do you even know who they're going to have face him, though? That's the big question: is who would face him at the 15th anniversary? And we keep talking about, who would be? I don't know.
I haven't a clue.
Somebody from New Japan.
They could do that. The show's in Las Vegas. I would think they would bring in some of those guys. So
yeah, true.
The Kingdom, they have a non-title 6-man match against John Skyler, Joe, I'm going to butcher his last name, Joe Go, and Corey Hollis. Joe gets taken out early by the Kingdom Come on the floor. We don't see him anymore. It's pretty much all Skyler and Hollis getting their tails kicked to him for the rest of the match. Although they do get in a lot more offense than I think, and it looks like it's another young team that Ring of Honor is sort of high on. But the Kingdom squash them, and then post-match, Taven grabs the mic and says the belts are never leaving Kingdom's waist. Dalton Castle and the boys come out. They tell him, or Dalton says that the boys are going to show you guys what we're going to do to you. And they shove Dalton around. Then they say, next time it's going to be you guys that happens to. And Taven decides that they don't need to wait. They can have the title match right now. And as Dalton and the boys make their way to the ring, Colt jumps him, beats him up, and they never make it, so Taven makes fun of him, and that takes us to commercial. What did you think about all this, though, Gary? I thought this was kind of fun.
Yeah, and and I hate to be this way, too, about the Kingdom, but right now the Kingdom are a little untouchable, too. Mm-hmm. The Kingdom, ever since they've won those, I don't know, I like to always say the Trios Championship. I don't know if that's the way you would call them. But, yes, 3-man tag title. I love the fact that these guys are still looking strong. They're doing their thing, and it seems like they can't find the right kind of competition for them. So this was kind of fun. They were probably going to win this match. It was not a big deal, but it was still entertaining. Don't get me wrong. It was a very entertaining match because they eliminated one of their opponents, but they still had two scrappy guys who made them kind of worry a little bit for a second there. So I appreciate that, and that was pretty decent. This whole thing with Dalton Castle, once again, Dalton's amazing. I love him. The fact that he brings the boys and is going to make a deal of this was awesome. Colt Cabana just continues his harassment of everything about Dalton Castle, including his boys, and so. It goes in more to that, and I just, here we go. This storyline continues, and I wasn't sure if it was over. I thought it might be over, but apparently it's not. They still have something going here, so it'll be exciting to kind of see what they do in the future with the Colt Cabana, of course, Dalton Castle. I'm excited about that, and I love the Kevin Kelly thing where he basically tells, Colt Cabana he can't be on the broadcast anymore because he broke one of the rules, and he was serious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sent him right onto the back, and we wouldn't hear from Colt again for the rest of the evening. They show the Cody Rhodes promo that New Japan showed in the build-up for Wrestle Kingdom 11, and this seemed really cheap, but I'm assuming the takeaway is supposed to be that he's coming to Ring of Honor television soon, but where he puts out the cigar and you see the Wrestle Kingdom logo, they didn't even replace that. It still says Wrestle Kingdom 11 on there, so I don't know.
It's just too much in post to worry about all that, Paul.
I guess.
Yeah, they got other things to do, like have lunch. But it's what it is. The American Nightmare, Cody, is coming, and I want to see him on Ring of Honor TV. I think they need him. They really right now they need this guy, and so it can't come soon enough. And hopefully it's going to be a really good match, whoever he's going to be facing against or doing whatever he's doing. It's just really cool to see him.
Absolutely. Yeah, let's talk about my favorite part of the show and what I think was the best part of the show. And that's the number one contenders match, 6-way, between Lio Rush, Donovan Dijak, Jonathan Gresham, Nick Saban. Yeah. Saban, Shelley, and Jay White. Marty Scurll, the TV champion, comes out with commentary. This match is great. Crazy all-out action, and Marty Scurll is just absolutely killer on commentary. Dijak wins with a Feast Your Eyes on Rush, who they had the finishing stretch against each other, and it's great. So great. So, what do you think about this, Gary?
Yeah, this was a lot of fun. Just because of the fact that, they kept playing on this the whole time, all these guys being friends. And I was, watching this and I kept thinking, when you talk about this match, don't say Nick Saban. Make sure you say Chris Saban.
Yeah.
And
I realized I wrote that down. I'm like, God dang, that's not his name.
And you know what's funny is I thought I was going to be doing that tonight. And I really did. And for you to do it, it shocked me because, I just thought that was my flub. But
it's 4 in the morning.
Exactly. And it's okay. It's really not a big deal. I'm cool with that. But yeah, I just think that this was a fun match. Of course, things did kind of break down a little bit. But in the end, you got what you needed, and that's fine. And one of my favorite parts of this is Scurll, the whole time just sitting there making fun, joking, doing his thing, just being, a heel, but saying some entertaining things throughout this match. So I think it was needed. I think this whole thing went down the way it had to go to get our final result. And our final result is fine. And I think, this works. I think all these guys involved are really fun. They're really cool, but, you can only have one guy contending for that title. So it's going to be exciting to see what they do in the future with this.
I forgot to mention, too, that the Rebellion came out and attacked Gresham and the Motor City Machine Guns after Gresham looked like he was about to do a big move off the top rope onto Lio into the ring. And, of course, the Rebellion have been trying to recruit Lio Rush into their ranks, and he hasn't been having it yet. So more play into that. And, with that, we're pretty much done here.
Yeah, exactly. And, still I want to say this, too. No matter what, why does Lio Rush always come out looking like the MVP of every freaking match? My God, I love that guy.
The dude is good. He is so good.
It's so smooth, so fast, and he's just everything. My God. Ever since I saw him in the Prospect Tournament, I just thought, wow, this guy is just, and he just never stops. So, but yeah, that is Ring of Honor for us this week. I think it was really good show. He's really wrestle heavy. But I think the matches involved were actually really exciting and entertaining and stuff you would really want to see on part of your Ring of Honor TV. So hopefully this next week's Ring of Honor TV is just the same, guys. But now we are going to end the show. We have
breaking news.
Go ahead.
Masayuki Uchida has announced a partnership between Noah and TNA.
What?
Yes.
Wow. Look at that.
I don't,
What do you think, Paul? Oh, my God.
That's weird.
I mean, some of those guys did interact at the AAA thing, so I do want to say that. You know, because Marufuji was there with, I want to say Kitamiya and like Taji Shimori. So, and EC3 was there and Eli Drake, so, you know, they may have talked to each other, you know, I don't know. But, you know, aside from that, this has got to be a Anthem thing with them talking to Uchida and just saying, hey, two companies that are sort of in the same spot, why not?
I'm trying to think about what Noah could really gain from pairing up with TNA. And outside of Lashley and maybe some of the X Division guys for the junior heavyweight division, I don't know how long this one's going to last. I mean, good for TNA.
I don't know that, like I just mentioned Marufuji, I mean, I don't know other than Marufuji, like, you gotta be, I mean, honestly, you're a hardcore fan watching TNA, period, but if any of these guys are going to show up on a TNA Impact taping, not a one night only that nobody in the world is going to see, who's going to care? I mean, like, I could see this working for Noah in that you get more bodies and you get more people that you can use on your shows and stuff like that. But then again, you're also going to a Japanese audience that's not going to care who they are. But
yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. I mean, they get a couple of things. Like, they promoted some junior heavyweights up to heavyweight to fill out that side of the roster. So I could see them using some of the guys they have in the X division. I mean, the Hardys, I guess, could be something that they might be after too. So, I mean, the Expedition for Gold thing could play into this, and there are some things you can do with it. I don't see this being so great for either of them long term, just because TNA hasn't really seemed to turn the corner since the buyout yet. And granted, it's still fresh, but
TNA is just as directionless as it was previous. So, I mean, I think to be fair, those tapings also kind of go with the previous regime. So it's after, whenever these tapings end, that I think we might finally get to, you know, get whatever it is that they're trying to do.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is really cool news, though. I mean, I guess for the fact that, you know, TNA will have some diversity, and, you know, we'll have to see, you know, how it works for Noah. I mean, apparently, like you guys are saying, Noah may be getting the better end of the deal, but, you know, at some point, you got to just be happy that we're seeing some progress with TNA, right? And I was a little taken aback by the news. At first, when Sean said there was breaking news, I thought that it got leaked that Karl Malone's going to be part of the Celebrity Hall of Fame for WWE, but
that would be
still
really
not happening.
Weird.
Yeah, still not happening. One of these days, Carl. Don't worry.
Wouldn't Dennis Rodman need to be there first?
I think Kevin Green.
We're going to talk about basketball players.
I think Kevin Green, the football player.
Mongo is the first guy you got to put in there.
Oh,
we're going football.
True, but I don't know if he could fit through the door.
Technically, they're still missing like Cyndi Lauper and they put in LT, right?
I don't remember.
I want to say yes.
I don't know.
If LT is not in there, they're stupid.
Yeah. And we're talking about Lawrence Taylor, not LaDainian Tomlinson. Different Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
What's
the moral of that Hall of Fame apparently is you need to be on the NFL Network, then you get in the Hall of Fame.
Basically, yes. I'm applying right now. But
LT is in. Oh, yeah, LT's in. Or no, he's not. Sorry, he's not in.
No.
What the hell, WWE? Right. I think that must be an image thing.
Yeah.
No, wait, I can't say that. They put Mike Tyson in, so you're...
And Trump. I mean, come on.
Yeah. That was before he got political.
Your president is now in the WWE Hall of Fame. I mean...
Yeah.
Oh God, I still can't believe I'm saying that's president, but whatever. Wait till we're not doing this podcast anymore because we're all in war or something.
No, I don't. Hopefully, we're not in war. Hopefully, we're doing better, and let's just hope that way. No negatives and all that. You never know. They did hashtag give divas a chance. Hashtag give Trump a chance, for God's sakes.
Let's not get political here. I don't want people turning us off.
No, but I'm just saying we're not going to talk bad about the guy and not give some positive. Both. Let's give both. How about that? Nasty and friendly. Let's do that. So anyway, let's move on, guys. We have to end this show. We want to let everybody know we really appreciate you coming and checking us out tonight. It's been a blast. We've had a lot of great topics to talk about. If you want to hear more from us, guess what? We have another episode this week. That's right. Episode 233 continues with part 2 on Thursday night. Of course, that'll be Friday morning on the download for everybody who listens to us that way. And, of course, to find us on the download, you need to go to the W2M network. If you're using the iTunes, Stitcher, or any other place that you like to download and use to podcast, go ahead and find that wording W2M network. Subscribe to it if you're not already subscribed. Also, go check us out online. Yeah, that's right. We are available online, W2Mnet.com. You can find all our podcasts plus all the great wrestling written content that's there. You need to go check it out. Please go do that because trust me, you'll really enjoy it. Besides that, we do have some other shows on the network this week. Sean, any big things we want to talk about before we get out of here about those?
I forgot to upload it, but, Running Wild Podcast had their Rumble weekend recap, recap and Evolve and everything as well. Of course, we had our Super Bowl, as Gary mentioned already, our Super Bowl 51 recap on the football show. We talked about everything. Randy and I even talked about the Lady Gaga thing and the commercials and all that stuff. So if you want to hear a full discussion on that, there's that. There's a new video games show as well. I think all the podcasts kind of got back on schedule. Paul has a new wrestling time machine, even. So, definitely need to check out the network. Go subscribe, people. A new soccer show as well.
Yeah. So, lots of great stuff coming your way from the W2Mnet.com. And we appreciate everybody who, once again, came and listened to us tonight. Share it with your friends. Go rate and review. And, of course, subscribe. So thanks a lot, everybody. So until next time, if you're not living life to the max.
Not living life at all.
You know it.
Please.
Later.
The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.